This week in the field, planning your landscape photo outing before you get out in the field. Hi everyone, I'm Scott Davenport. Welcome to In the Field. Thanks for joining me today. So today's In the Field is a little different because we're not actually going into the field. We're going to be spending time planning for a landscape outing. This topic came up from one of the viewers of the channel. I bumped into him in Big Sur, and afterward he followed up saying, "Now, hey, I'd love to see a video on what you do to plan one of your landscape outings." So this is the kind of stuff that I'll do when I'm going beyond my backyard. I'll still use some of these tools when I'm looking for someplace new nearby my home, but when I'm going to be going to a place that I've either never visited before or I know I have a small amount of time, a handful of days, I'm going to do some significant planning and map things out as best I can to maximize my chances of coming away with a good photo. And I am in the middle of planning a trip to Acadia National Park, so it's almost perfect timing, and I'll show you some of the tools that I use to plan out a landscape shoot. Well, first up, it starts with good photo opportunities, and the way to find those is to start looking at photos that others have taken in those areas. Now, I'll still go to tools like 500px, and in this case I'll just type in Acadia National Park, start scrolling through, and as I see a photo that I like, and I'll tap on it, I'll get information about that photo, find out where it was taken. Sometimes you get a GPS tag. I'm less interested in that. I'm mainly looking for key landmarks. In this case, this one's from Otter Point. Okay, great. And Mel, excellent photo, by the way. Really like this one. And so I'll go through that. I'll look at Google, I'll look at Instagram, and I'll build up a list of potential locations. And then once I have that set of locations, it's time to figure out where they are on the map. There's two different mapping tools I use. First, I'll just use the maps that are built into Apple Maps. And this is for more like kind of some virtual scouting. So I'm just zooming in here. I'm going to switch over to the satellite view, and I'll go into this 3D mode, which lets me take a look at areas. And so this I know is Otter Point from previous explorations. I think this is called Sand Beach. And I can just start to zoom around here and get a good look at, okay, what's looking here? I start to get ideas about parking situations. These little outcroppings, obviously a parking lot there. Nice pathway along these rocks, and start really getting in there and trying my best to get as much of a 3D view on this as I can. Of course, the more elevation that exists, or I should say difference in elevation, the more info you're going to get back from a 3D mapping tool. But this is a great way to try to find little interesting alcoves along shorelines. Again, my kind of places, my kind of thing. I think Google Earth is another way that you can look at some of the 3D maps, or even just the maps within Google itself. So this is like my next level of, I've found some pretty good areas for photos, and now I'll get my first glimpse of the landscape by skimming around, in this case coastline, looking for potential outcroppings of rocks and pathways here. And also just a general idea of what direction things are facing. In this case, this is an easterly facing landmass, so that's going to be a mental note for sunrise. Now that I've done some of this work and kind of done my virtual scouting of having a general feel for the area, get serious about putting things down on the map, pins on maps. And for that, I will use Google Maps, specifically the My Places area, where you can build and create your own custom map, dropping pins on various places and adding notes to them and so forth. In this map, I've gotten to some pretty good detail here. Anything that has like a little circle with a photo on it, like these guys here, here, here. Those are all telling me those are potential photo places where I've got labels on them. That's a walking or a hiking path. So I'll map out walking and hiking paths. And all of these can have associated information with them. How long will the hike take? And that will be, certainly based on how fast you walk. And so if a hike says, oh, it's 1 kilometer and that will take a half an hour, mentally, I'm probably at least doubling that, maybe tripling it, because I'm going to be stopping and taking photos. I'm not just going to walk the entire length and never take out my camera. So this starts to bundle up ideas for how long to spend in a certain area and how long I might be on a particular hiking path. It also gives me groupings of areas. So like this might be a region I try to explore at the same time. Same thing here, same thing here. And so you start to get a feel for regions of the area that you're visiting and bundling those into either mornings or afternoons or particular outings for some fun time with your camera. Once I know the places I'm going to go, it's to Google to figure out just the basic logistics. How long is it going to take to get from point A to point B? I mentioned hiking paths. How long will a particular hike take? Is there parking? Is there public versus private land I might need to worry about? There's no one size fits all for this. It really does depend on where you're visiting. And if it's a place like Acadia, you'll find lots of information. If it's a place in the back country of Wyoming, you may find less information. It will just depend on where you're going. But try to get some basic logistics mapped out. Also, when I start to sketch out the days that I'm visiting, I tend to do like a sunrise, mid-morning, mid-afternoon, and sunset trips, air quotes, or visits. And I keep those relatively loose. I won't, short of it being an east-facing landmass, okay, that probably makes more sense for sunrise, or west-facing for sunset. I keep things quite loose because I want to have gaps in the day, because I may find something very interesting that I hadn't thought I would, or I find a location is incredible and I want to spend more time there than I had sketched out. So leaving yourself some wiggle room in the visit, I think, is a good idea. And as far as like sunrise and sunset times, I will turn to the photographer's Ephemeris. Great app, lousy name, just to get an idea of where the sun's rising and setting directionally. I'm going in October, so I'll just pick something in the middle of October there. And here's that same area I was looking at on the 3D map. All right, so the sun's coming in from the southeast. It's setting to the southwest. And so I would expect, perhaps if I were on to the very tip of this land, no, I'm not even going to get any direct sunset light there. So, this whole area would really be a sunrise type place. And I might have to go look inland or at some of these higher peaks for something to catch sunset light. And so, but that's the extent of the sun direction that I'll do. It's pretty rare that I'm trying to line the sun up with a physical object, whether it be something in nature or a man-made structure like a pier or so forth. So I'm less concerned with the precise angle of the sun for the large majority of the outings. So at this point, I've got a sketch for what I'm going to have each day on location. Something centered around sunrise, something centered around, I'll call it mid-morning, mid-afternoon, and then sunset. Map-wise, trying to group different locations together. But at the end, nothing beats boots on the ground. And once I'm on location, I'm going to play by ear what's going on with weather. That will dictate certain places I'm going to go. Again, sunrise locations and sunset locations, those tend to lend themselves to one or the other just based on the geology of the location. But everything in between, it can be more fluid. And the weather plays a role in that. And I have a bunch of different weather apps on my phone. The one I like for microclimates is actually it's called YR.NO. They have a mobile app as well. And I just like they break it down by 6-hour increments. And this works pretty darn well for within, let's say, 2 to 3 hours. And so I can check a variety of locations that are within an hour or two from where I am, and get a pretty good idea of what that local weather is going to be like, and maximize my chances for a good shoot. The site's based in Norway, so the language will look a little different on the website, but it works. I typed in here, I just put in Acadia National Park. It gave me a bunch of choices, gave me all the information I need, and of course you can do what you would normally expect to be able to do, is put in the date that you're interested in, or better yet, put it on your phone, because they do have a mobile app. It's free, and it works fantastic. Speaking of mobile apps, one other that I have on my phone is called Tide Chart. If I'm shooting in a coastal location, I want to know Am I at high tide, low tide, mid tide? Those will factor in as well for certain coves. Some coves are only accessible at lower tides, or some places are better suited for higher tides. There's a particular spot in Acadia called Thunder Hole that is more of a high tide place. It's to see the wave come crashing in and exploding water all the way up the sides of these rocks. It's not going to happen at low tide. So understanding tides if you're at a coastal area, that's another good planning tool to have in your pocket. As for a tip of the week, I'd say it's the yr.no app. I've been using that for about a year now, and it's served me very, very well in a variety of spots around the US, and I'm pretty sure it's equally impressive for other spots of the world. So if you don't have that app on your phone, add it to your list of your weather apps. I know I have several on my phone. I'll consult those and try to get an aggregate feel of what seems to be the general consensus across them to help me fine-tune shooting when I'm on location finally after all this virtual planning has been done. That's going to do it for this week's In the Field. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, let me know somehow. Comments on the video below would be great. Social share is always appreciated. And if you got questions about photography, you'd like to hear something, got something on your mind, share it with me. Leave a comment below. If you want to keep it private, you can contact me through my website. Until next time, my name's Scott Davenport, and happy shooting.